What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Internal Leverage Podcast. It's your boy, Abraham Heisler. And we always talk about high performance mindset. Today, we're going to be talking about how to build a resilient mindset. So what is it? Like, what is a resilient mindset, right? It's absolutely essential for accomplishing anything great in your life. And so this podcast is really directed towards entrepreneurs to be successful in your business, to be successful in whatever you set your mind to. You need to have resilience. What does that mean? So for me, resiliency is all about, and here's the key, getting over yourself. Okay? It's like, sounds like at first one of those, platitudes, right? Just an answer like, yeah, get over, like a Yoda little fortune cookie, get over yourself, right? But what does that really mean? So let's break that down. Self, S-E-L-F, S, struggle. We all have it. We all are going to struggle, okay? We all are going to reach that point in the creation of anything great where it's no longer fun or inspirational. We're not at that like high that we get when we first start something and we're like just motivated and we're just like driving off of willpower or, just like in flow with something. We hit that point where all of a sudden the struggle happens. Okay, the effort happens, and all of a sudden it's not fun anymore. So struggle, effort, and lack of fun, S-E-L-F, that's yourself. That's yourself. We're all going to come to that point in our life, in our business, where we have to face ourselves. Myself, yourself, we all have a self, right? We all have that point. In fact, when I was in filmmaking back in the day, there was this 6-step or 6-phase process for making a film, right? For creating anything. Number one, this is awesome, right? There's that inspiration, there's that happiness, the joy, all that type of stuff. The good, chemicals floating through the body, all that type of stuff, right? Number two, this is hard, right? You start to come up against some resistance. Not a problem. I can keep going. I can keep doing this, right? Step number 3 or phase 3 is this sucks. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Why did I do this in the first place? This sucks. That is the beginning of what Seth Godin in his book calls the dip. Okay, that is the beginning of, so this is hard. Obviously, we got to start to struggle a bit. We need to effort a bit. The fun might be kind of like wheezing out of the tank, out of the balloon. But it's still enough to keep us going. When we get to that this sucks point or that's this sucks phase, all of a sudden it's all struggle, it's all effort, it's all hustle, right? There's nothing fun about it. This sucks. I don't want to be here anymore. Why am I here? It's interesting, in Seth Godin's book, he talks about how, a lot of people think, oh yeah, I want to be a doctor, sure. And then they go to med school and they get hit first and foremost with some of the hardest classes. Not because, there's this idea that you would you start here and then you start to build and you kind of build momentum. But no, it's like the reason why they hit these students with these hard freaking classes is because they're trying to weed out the people that aren't serious, right? They're trying to weed out the people that don't have the work ethic, who don't have the delayed gratification. Meaning that if you place the marshmallow in front of me right now and say, wait 10 minutes and you'll get another marshmallow, I can delay that gratification. In fact, I'm referencing a very famous study that was done with kids showing that when they sit kids down with a marshmallow, just like I just said, and they said, hey, wait 10 minutes to eat it. I'll be right back. If you wait, I'm going to give you another marshmallow. So many of the kids, they couldn't wait. They ate it right away. Others were able to wait. They're able to take their time. And what they found, which was really interesting, is that they followed these kids throughout their life and saw, this is done over decades, right? This study, and they saw that the kids that were able to wait, to delay gratification, ended up being more successful in life. All right. They had more professional, they were in professions that paid more, that required long hours of study. They were rewarded more. Now, of course, there's also a whole socioeconomic component to that. But this whole concept of the more we can strengthen or emphasize this delayed gratification. So, for instance, when we hit the dips in our life and whatever hustle we're doing, I mean, I'm obviously talking to entrepreneurs about business, and that's really the focus of this podcast and conversation. But this applies to anything. It could be your health, your relationship, your loved ones, anything that you're doing in life requires that self, right? That struggle, that effort, and that phase that isn't very fun. And so the question is, how much can you allow yourself to be in that phase? Tony Robbins says, the quality of your life is directly proportional to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably live with, right? And it's true, like the amount of uncertainty or discomfort that we can comfortably live with as entrepreneurs is going to reward us more. Why? Because again, this is all to do with resiliency. Our ability to bounce back, our ability to keep going, our ability to drive even when the tank is on empty. Of course, we look at highlight reels, we look at Facebook and Instagram, and everything looks amazing, to be an entrepreneur or to be somebody of significance. It's just like, it's all this sort of like veneer. But what people don't see is the self, right? They don't see the struggle, the effort, the lack of fun that went into creating that, right? The cause and effect of it. So coming back to this 6-step or 6-phase analogy, number 1, again, this is awesome. Number 2, this is hard. Number 3, this sucks. Now, here's the thing that I really want to get into, because this is where the personal growth element comes in. When we get into the 4th step or the 4th phase, that's when shit gets real. And it's no longer this sucks, but the energy at that phase is I suck. All right? I suck. I must be the one that's effing this up, right? At that stage, we start questioning ourselves. So it's not only about what's happening around us or whatever we're doing, but it's about who we're being. Now, the more we question that, the more opportunity we have to grow. Sometimes it's just like a little doubt in the mind, like, should I be doing this? And it's like, no, I got this, right? But usually that's not something, if it's not going to burn us, like really get down to the bone, to our core, then it's not a challenge that's really great enough. In fact, I would go as far as to say we have to die and be reborn again and again and again and again. And if we're not going through that process, if we're not really pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone, then we're not growing, or we're not exponentially growing as high performers. There's growth let me break this down. There's 2 things, right? There's growth and there's transformation. Growth is inevitable. We're all going to grow and we're all going to go through this phase and this process at some point in our lives. The question is, do we want to transform? Like some Optimus Prime transform. And again, this discourse is really for people who want to accomplish great things in life. And if that is you, then you know that you're not interested in just normal growth. You know that things are going to grow. Cancer grows, right? But what you want is transformation. 100% absolute freaking transformation. And it's the same reason why when I sit down to work with a client, the first thing I ask, well, first off is, what do you want? And then the next thing that I ask, that's a deeper question, is who do you need to be? Who do you need to become in order to accomplish that? Because I truly believe that the challenges that are here are not just like shit that we have to deal with, right, in order to accomplish our goal. No, the challenges are the goal, meaning that the challenges are here to force us to grow. Business is a spiritual game, meaning that all the challenges that we come across, when we get into that stage 4 of this 6-step creation process and we start questioning ourselves, what we're really doing is we're questioning our identity. And so it's sort of not lost on me, this idea that, the self, the struggle, the effort, the lack of fun, that comes into play. And then when we confront ourselves, when we're faced with ourselves, we question our identity. We question who we are. And the truth is, we actually have to let go of a piece of ourselves in order to embrace something new, in order to grow. And if you look at any Hollywood film, that's exactly what's happening. This is the hero's journey behind any character in any film. And when I say Hollywood, I'm talking about Hollywood films. I'm not talking about some experimental art house, because that's a totally different narrative or arc, right? But what I'm talking about is the classic arc plot that everybody's familiar with, right? Luke going from being a farm boy on some planet to being this intergalactic Jedi, or I mean, just think of any other character from any other film where that character is faced with something great, a challenge, and then they have to grow. The great filmmaker Hitchcock, he used to say, when I sit down to write a script, I start with the villain. Who is the challenger? Who is the antagonist? Who is that thing that's going to force this protagonist to grow in some way, right? And so what's really interesting is that all films, the way the script is written, the characters must face these tiny dilemmas where it's like they want one thing and they want the other thing, but they can't have both, so they got to let go. It's like Sophie's Choice, right? Or, there's the lesser of two evils. It's basically anytime a character or a person is confronted with two things and they have to make a really difficult decision. And the main dilemma is called the crisis. And crisis in Chinese, the characters that make up the word crisis are danger and opportunity. So in other words, we got to put ourselves in this place of danger where we're in that phase 4 where we're questioning things, we're questioning ourselves in order to have the opportunity to grow, in order to embrace something new. And a crisis is always a letting go of an old piece of ourself, an old value, or an old this, an old that. For instance, now Han Solo, I love talking about Star Wars. Han Solo is not a protagonist, but he also has his own narrative in the sense of, at first he's only out for money and he's not all about friendship. But then he faces his own sort of internal crisis in the very first Star Wars film where he realizes, all right, I'm going to put myself in danger, not for the money, but because I actually like having friends. I feel some connection to these people. So the Millennium Falcon comes back and helps out at the end of the film, right? Perfect example. So that stage 4, when we hit that dip, now let me slow down. We hit the dip in stage 3, right? We start hitting the dip, stage 2, stage 3, but the real dip is the internal dip. The real dip is when we question ourselves and we question who we are and what we're made of. And we all have a choice. The choice is simple. It's easy. Give up. Throw in the towel. Settle for something easier. Settle for something, anything. Versus digging your heels into your vision of what it is that you want to create. That doesn't mean digging your heels into the strategy, because the strategy that's ending you up in the dip externally is obviously not working for you, and that strategy needs to shift and change. But you need to evolve in order to even become aware. Make yourself aware of the new strategy that is available, that was always available. Maybe you didn't see it before. See, really, it's a shift in awareness. And you can go back to some of the other podcast episodes where I talk more about awareness to really get into the unconscious mind and conscious mind and all this and that. But the main thing that I'm trying to express here is that we have to recommit to the vision of what we want to create, while at the same time taking a step back and really analyzing and breaking down, am I using the right strategy? Is there something else I need to be doing? I'll give you one final example from the world of film. If you watch the movie Good Will Hunting, so Matt Damon's character, Will, he's an idiot savant. I mean, he's a genius, basically, right? But he is unable to really make use of that and create a good life for himself, a career, the finance, the relationships that he wants, because he has trauma from the past, right? And it's created all these limiting beliefs, and he's holding on to his defense mechanism for dealing, the way his coping strategies for dealing with that internal trauma, which lands him a janitor's job, as opposed to being this incredible genius, who's like doing things for the world, right? And bettering himself at the same time. And it's I love this scene. It's one of my favorite scenes. But Robin Williams' character plays his therapist and challenges him and steps up. And this is the climax of the film. He tells Will, he says, "Look," and I'm sorry, it's a spoiler alert, but he says, "All that trauma and abuse that you suffered at the hands of your father, it's not your fault." And at first, Will's like, yeah, whatever. He's just doing his normal strategy. Like, yeah, man, he's kind of like a 90s bro, right? Yeah, bro. Yeah, all good. I know. But Robin Williams steps in and just pierces him with his focus and his attention because he's just like, I don't care if you're going to hit me, if you're going to punch. I don't care what you're going to do. I'm going to pierce this armor that you have of this bullshit strategy of coping with your past, which is not serving you in your life. And I'm going to reach you. And he does. He finally does. Watch the scene. It's a beautiful scene. And after Matt Damon's character has this sort of cathartic moment where he cries and he finally feels what he's been feeling, he's no longer resisting. He's no longer resisting those feelings, the difficulty, the hard feelings from within. Right? Because we can all go through like hard shit. And that's the final thing I want to say here about resiliency is we can all go through hard stuff and be resilient. Oh yeah, I've dealt with some hard stuff. I'm good. Right? And we can get through it. But the question is, did we really allow ourselves to experience what it was that we needed to experience, to fully experience it? Because if we do not, all suffering is an avoidance of suffering. That means that we are delaying. We are delaying that suffering and pushing it out. Unfortunately, in our society, modern day society, with all this like quick fix culture, most people opt for the medicine, the numbing medicine, right? Not the real medicine, but whatever is going to help me to not feel what I'm feeling. There's times, obviously, and listen, there's times where we do need to reach for the painkiller in order to get through, and that's fine. But we've developed such a culture of you don't have to feel anything in life. You don't have to feel pain, which is bullshit. It's fucking bullshit because it prevents us from truly, really deep down developing the resiliency that's needed to move through, to grow, to evolve, to move on to the next phases of that 6-step journey. So let's wrap up with the final 2 phases of that journey to, on the path of growth, on the path of creating anything great in our life. So we know that 1 is this is great, 2 is this is hard, 3 is this sucks, 4 is I suck. And then if we're doing the work that I'm talking about here, allowing ourselves to feel and moving forward, we move on to stage 5, which is this is not so bad. It's not so bad. Okay, maybe you get a win. Maybe you get a sale. Maybe you get this. Maybe you get that. Maybe something happens. You shift your strategy and you find a new strategy that works. You let go of some piece of yourself that's not serving you and embrace something new that is. And all of a sudden it's scary, but hey, something's happening, something's shifting, something's moving. You're starting to get momentum, which leads us finally to the 6th stage, the last stage. This is awesome. Right? That's the effect that everybody sees. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's when you finally built the business, sold the business, got to a place where you're out there in the world, you're serving, things are firing on all cylinders. This is amazing. This is awesome. This is the point of conception where I got inspired in the first place to the final stage of manifestation of that thought, that idea. But again, it takes a journey. It takes that dip. It takes our ability to show up, confront ourselves, as well as what's happening around us, confront our suffering, our struggle, effort, and lack of fun, ourself, show up and face ourselves in order to push through, develop that resilient mindset, get to the other side, and accomplish great things. Let me know how this lands for you. Drop a comment in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you. Go read the book, The Dip, and watch Good Will Hunting, and I'll see you on the next episode.